What's up, guys? Um, as you know, we just had an election, and from the results of that election, we have the pretty good case that you can't specify exactly what all of the swing states will be, despite what will happen at the end, and will be the closest of swing states. But the United States as a whole has switched into more of a swing country, not just a country with swing states. And as a country that is trending closer to 50-50 politically, there is obviously the reality that there's been for tons of years still in existence that both candidates vote for one of the two major parties, and they continue to do that. That means that a lot of people, um, right now, the projected majority of Americans, what is projected, um, voted for Joe Biden despite it being a 50-50 split in a swing country nationally. But um, but the reason for a lot of people choosing Biden was by default. A lot of people believe Donald Trump is a racist. A lot of people also believe Donald Trump does not treat women right. They didn't like the fact that he had an affair on his wife and that he hooked up with a porn star, and they don't like what they deem his racially charged rhetoric or worse. But if you think that you were going to not vote for a racist by default by voting for Biden, there's a problem because he's racist. But we'll get back to that. But when a lot of people think coronavirus and pandemic and problematic New Yorker that's overweight, a lot of people think Donald Trump. But who is actually the chairman of the House of Representatives? That is Gerald Nadler, aka Jerry Nadler of New York, aka Chair of House. What does Chair of House do? Acts as the judge of Congress and overhears all major discussions on House-led coronavirus discussions. This is who Jerry Nadler is. Formerly 5'6", 500 pounds, now 5'6", 5'5", 300, 350 pounds. Coronavirus, a throat, mouth, and respiratory disease, of which includes your upper respiratory system and your gut. And this guy leads the discussions on it, and we blame Trump. But this guy led all coronavirus discussions, and he was actually a negative force in all those. Hard to imagine, huh? Look at him. Get that picture in your mind right there. One of the bigger problems with coronavirus, definitely, and that cannot be debated in any way, shape, or form. One of the biggest problems in our government and in our country, and one of the biggest problems with coronavirus, because he tries to tell people what to do, and he tries to virtue signal with people wearing on a mask. And look at him. You could have any gym teacher lead Congress better than that in regard to coronavirus discussions. Not saying that he didn't have any intelligence, not saying that he's never done anything good, but definitely failed in that regard. And Trump has taken the brunt of the assault for that. But to get back to the Biden thing, your boy, Joe Biden. There he is when he was younger. And like I said, you think that by default, you're not voting for a racist by voting for Biden, and you definitely are. In 1977, he said, integrating black students returned schools into a racial jungle. He said this, and he has not taken it back. He says right below that quote, right as you see right here, I do not want my children to grow up in a racial jungle. Those were his words right there. And at the very bottom, below his picture, and below the first two quotes, it's a quote about him telling a talk radio show host that if you're not voting for Biden, he's not black. And that's right after he a week before, or a week later, said to a black radio host that accused him of being coked out. This is the same guy who went down to Florida and to try to endear himself to the Latin American community, played Mexican and salsa music in van-like station wagons and blared that music, and thought that would endear himself to Floridians and to Hispanics down there. And it's the same guy who said in the night that he supposedly won that I want to thank black Americans for sticking with me no matter what. Think about that. He said that no matter what. Pretty big statement. But, yeah. But he also, he said that the Confederate flag, women's group, that they're flying people who fly the Confederate flag, he said. He said that, he really was really thankful, though, that he thought that African Americans stood with him the whole way, and he wanted to know when he was campaigning in the South that he was from a border state. That, he thought that would endear himself to people by saying that he's from a slave state that a lot of people don't know. Delaware is originally Old Dixie. Maryland, Delaware, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia. That is original Dixie. But, he gets away with these things, and he's able to use the virus as a political football in order to coax himself into the consensus thinking that he's president-elect, and then he tries to tell, that we all need to come together, as one, right after he calls 72 million Americans chumps. He says, we need to come together, but he's using the virus as a political football or as a political hockey puck or whatever, and he's trying to say that, we're gonna have a joy program for vaccines, and I'm not gonna stop the economy or shut it down. I'm gonna shut down the virus, even though it's a global virus, He creates all these phony task force and these phony little teams, and while his blue state governors go along with these little phony, hypocritical, self-righteous quarantine restrictions for Thanksgiving dinner, while they want to cancel that, they want to cancel Christmas. While that's going on now, this summer, you had rioting going on, which he did nothing to mitigate or to lessen the effect of. That didn't bring anybody together. Did nothing about it. He let it go on because he thought he would get votes from them. And a lot of them did vote for him, but a whole lot more of them didn't vote for him, which I think is actually funny, and I actually respect him more now because of that. So nobody's gonna come together. You kept talking about the new normal, and now you're talking about come together. Those two things don't simultaneously exist. You've already said that we want to move on to the new normal, and we're doing that. We're not coming together. You called people chumps. You made up stuff. You went around all summer, and then you hacked the shit out of the election night one, and you're lucky that you didn't get arrested that night for it. Night two, you hack it by 70% in Michigan at midnight. After that vote got turned in at 11, the next time there was a vote turning in again at 8 or 7, all of a sudden you make up this. As far as differential surges go, you go on a 600% differential surge in makeup, not from your total, but from the comparison of your end vote in the 100,000s into what you ended up getting to as you go from 1,000,002 to 2. Then meanwhile, in totality, instead of taking all the vote at that time in Michigan like you did the night before, you take 68.9% of the vote in Michigan that night. But really what says it all the first night is the size of Joe Biden, of his eyes, and how they're just bulging out. They're bulging out in a way that any mother in America would call out their kid on, any father in America would call out their kid on, but a lot of the voters that voted for Joe Biden would call out their kid on that, but they're going to hide behind the veil of ignorance as if it's just Joe Biden's allergy medication or Joe Biden's sleep medication or allergy medication or pain pills that made his eyes dilated, which those things can make your eyes dilated, but that was definitely stress and guilt related inflammation in his eyes and swelling up. Your eyes don't look like that for anything other than stress and guilt. That's Joe Biden for you. This happened at a sequence as votes came to a stop in multiple swing cities across the country. But with that being said, the most likely result is that Joe Biden is the president of our republic. Because I don't know if Giuliani is presenting the case in a tactical enough way in order to get a whole bunch of people to buy it. I don't know if they really believe him, because even though he's authentic and he is sincere and he's serious and he's the real deal, he's almost too real, because it's almost seen as if he's defending a friend and not going after legitimate information. He is going after legitimate information. Obviously, Sidney Powell was not playing hard enough. It wasn't going after it in a way that they thought was conducive enough for her to stay on with the legal team. But you call 72 million Americans chumps, or probably more than that. You say this or that, blah 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 blah, blah, you know, and then you flip flop on this or that. You don't have any major campaign stances throughout the whole time, and then you run around with a squad of goons that call themselves progressive, but in no way live up to the vocabulary word of what progressive means or what that means. They're actually regressive. They're actually a hindrance. They're a hindrance to the economy, and they're a hindrance to everything, because they're cancel culture, like Jerry Nadler. Jerry Nadler, one of the biggest problems, who treated Attorney General Barr like total crap when he had that cross-examination that day for what they called, quote-unquote, peaceful protesters. They were not peaceful protesters. And the saddest thing is that a representative in Congress from Oregon, the hipster with the bow tie that goes out to the country clubs, that plays golf, that guy with the glasses, that acts more like a Republican in terms